Hello and welcome to another short from Disasterwise, a series of quick dives into the myths, maths and management of crisis and disaster. Today I'll be talking about multi-hazard early warning systems. In reality, almost all disasters are not just predictable, but give at least enough warning of impending calamity for us to take some form of protective action. Lead times vary, of course, depending on the category of hazard, from seconds in the case of earthquakes to days or weeks for volcanic eruptions or river floods. Hello, my name is James Shepherd-Barron. I'm a disaster risk management consultant and founder of Disasterwise.org. A multi-hazard early warning system is a set of integrated capacities to generate and disseminate timely and meaningful warning information to individuals, communities and organizations threatened by hazard events, to prepare for and take appropriate action to reduce disaster risk. Warning systems are much more than technology fixes and last-minute broadcasts. From a systems perspective, an early warning system is an integrated system for monitoring, collecting, collating, analyzing, interpreting, and communicating data. This is a massive and highly complex undertaking, which requires high-tech hardware and software capable of collecting and collating the data, including the artificial intelligence software to analyze it, a competent human interface to interpret the data that's incoming, instant access to high bandwidth communication systems for rapid and systematic sharing of compatible data sets, and use of common predictive simulation models at different spatial and timescales and resolutions. To be effective, early warning systems must have three things. They must be multi-hazard. Multi-hazard early warning systems address several hazards and/or impacts of similar or different type in contexts where hazardous events may occur alone, simultaneously, as a cascade of knock-on events, or cumulatively over time. They must be end-to-end. The system covers the entire range, from hazard detection to action, which includes providing understandable and actionable warning messages. And lastly, they must be people-centered. This means facilitating public education and awareness of risks, designing systems with people in mind, and empowering them to act on time and in an appropriate manner. It's not enough for an early warning system to correctly identify an incoming hazard. It must also ensure that those potentially in harm's way can receive an alert, understand it, and most importantly, act on it. Remembering that this is a highly complex process, this means a number of things have to happen in sequence. You have to identify the hazard, including any knock-on effects, assess risk, consider possible reduction measures for vulnerability and exposure, create local capacities for readiness, detect the hazard, interpret what's going on, take a decision, alert everyone, and then act early without regret if the action is not required. And finally, sound the all clear and learn lessons together. Effective end-to-end and people-centered early warning systems must include four interrelated elements. These need to be coordinated within and across sectors and multiple levels for the system to work effectively. They must also include a feedback mechanism for continuous improvement. Failure in any one component or lack of coordination across them could lead to the failure of the whole system. This is what makes it so complex. So let's look at the first one, which is disaster risk knowledge. This is based on the systematic collection of data and disaster risk assessments. Questions such as, are the hazards and vulnerabilities well known? What are the patterns and trends in these factors? Are risk maps and data widely available? Then we look at detection, monitoring, analysis and forecasting of the hazards and their possible consequences. Are the right parameters being monitored? Is there a sound scientific basis for making the forecast? Can accurate and timely warnings be generated? And then dissemination and communication by an official source of authoritative, timely, accurate and actionable warnings and associated information on likelihood and impact. Do warnings reach all of those at risk? Are the risks and the warnings understood? Is the warning information clear? Is it usable? And then finally, preparedness. Preparedness at all levels to respond to any warnings received. Are response plans up to date and tested? Are local capacities and knowledge made use of? And are people prepared and ready to react? Alerts and warnings are given out and disseminated in multiple different methods, and there's only two messages really here. The first is use them all. The flags used here in Bangladesh work perfectly well for in rural areas for storm warnings, but be aware that in resource poor settings, word of mouth is still the most effective means. For all practical purposes, warnings and alerts are the same thing. An emergency alert will warn you if there's a danger to life nearby or on its way, while a warning will provide advice about how to stay safe. And in 2019, the Japanese Meteorological Agency rolled out this 5-level disaster warning scale to be used for floods and landslides, and was designed to simplify the existing system and to reduce casualties by speeding up evacuation. Most countries will have a system and color-coded system looking something like this. And finally, warnings and alerts must carry the authority of government if they are to be believed. That's government centrally and local government. So it's probably become clear to you by now that multi-hazard early warning systems come with a certain set of challenges, being complicated and complex systems. I'm not going to go through them all, but here are some of the main ones. Reliability. How many false alarms do you have? To what extent has trust been eroded? And what can you do to build back that trust through good communications? Complexity. Information overload at the user level can add to confusion and lead to disaster dissonance of people doing something other than they say they're going to do. People can receive a message, they're aware of it, but they don't know what to do. Is everybody included? Minority groups and religious leaders, for example. And then you've got the practical problems to do with electricity supply and battery backup, and then the theft of some of these items or the damage. The first slide, for example, showed a buoy from the Pacific Tsunami Warning System. They frequently get damaged by passing trawlers. Social media cannot be relied upon to give meaningful information. Information on social media can be misinformation, as we now know, and can be manipulated. And then finally, the fact that we tend to focus on one hazard, but most hazards cascade and compound. They have knock-on effects that accumulate over time. So we need to be aware of those and build them into our planning for early warning system response. And I just want to finish with a story, if you like. This picture is from Nepal. The story is about Japan, but the lessons are the same. And we're talking about earthquakes. And what we perceive as an extended jolt actually arrives in stages. Energy released by movement in the Earth's crust travels through the Earth in various different forms. The primary, P wave, travels at about 450 kilometers a minute, but being longitudinal doesn't carry that much power. The secondary, S waves, carry a slower moving but extremely powerful pulse of energy in both horizontal and vertical planes, and it's these that do the damage. In the Japan earthquake of March 2011, the initial P waves preceded the more violent and destructive S waves by nearly 80 seconds, allowing enough time for automated early warning systems to trigger the sending of bulk text messages to all mobile phones in the potentially affected area, warning people on lower floors of buildings to evacuate, for railroad officials to slow high-speed bullet trains, for lifts and elevators to disgorge their passengers at the next floor, for traffic lights near bridges and tunnels to turn red, for air traffic controllers to divert aircraft on final approach to land, and for municipal gas and water valves to be closed. The 2010 earthquake in Haiti killed over 200,000 people, while a much larger event a few weeks later in Chile killed less than 1,000. And most of the difference in death toll is put down to the attention paid to managing disaster risk and establishing reliable multi-hazard early warning systems by the Chilean government in the years preceding the event. The greater the distance from the epicenter, the greater the delay between the two types of waves, and the more time people have to protect themselves. Every second counts. Thanks for your time. I hope you found this short presentation useful. If you want to know more about early warning systems or any other disaster-related topic, please take a look at disasterwise.org, where, of course, you can also subscribe. Stay safe wherever you are, and until the next time, goodbye.